But we need to get tucked into this new Gorillaz album, which is fantastic. He's a man of many hats, and as I've often said, can sometimes be a little bit of a mystery. Hopefully not tonight. We talk to Damon next on the Radio X Evening Show.
The Radio X Evening Show with Dan O'Connell.
Radio X. Welcome to the Radio X Evening Show. It's Thursday night. We have a very special guest. The man, sometimes the myth, always a legend, Mr. Damon Albarn.
Good evening.
Hey, I was watching a video just last night. Let me describe it to you. It was talking about the problem for people who seem to be depressed at the moment. And this guy, a psychiatrist, was talking about the idea that it comes down to the fact that lots of people have no autonomy in their life. Mm-hmm. They don't get to make choices, so they don't have freedom, and they don't have any way to let out their creativity. And I was watching this video, I thought, wow! Damon Albarn must be the happiest man on planet Earth.
Well, I mean, to start off with, I don't have a phone.
Right.
So...
helpful.
Yeah, I think a lot of autonomy comes out of not having a phone. There's a counter-argument which would say that I have less autonomy because I don't have a phone, but I've always valued my creative freedom and above everything else.
Do you miss having a phone ever? Have you ever missed anything because you don't have a phone?
I have to be honest, the only way I can get away with it is because I have kind of quite a few people who kind of take care of everything.
Yeah, but that's fine.
So I'm not autonomous at all. I'm just useless. I've rendered myself useless over the years.
Cracker Island is out now, 8th album. Some big featurings on this. Beck, Tame Impala, Stevie Nicks, Bad Bunny, Thundercat, of course, on Cracker Island, which we love. And it is on course for number 1 this week. Obviously, we'll find out tomorrow. You'll have that confirmed, I'm sure. Is that something that's a thing for you? Do you like the idea of, I guess, vindication, or sort of being proved that your creative path is justified when you have so many people liking it?
I think being number 1 proves that your creative path is intact at all. I mean, obviously it's nice. I wouldn't say I'm ambivalent about it, but it's just a number, isn't it? You know, there's been a lot of bad number 1 albums, let's be honest. And a lot of great number 2 albums, and a lot of great number 10 albums, whatever, it doesn't matter. Recognise the value of it, and, you know, everyone who's worked on the record, obviously, I'm extremely grateful that they've put that time in.
There can't be many people left to collaborate with.
No, there's a lot.
Who's on the list? I mean,
Come on.
I always thought that when we got to this album, when we started playing Cracker Island, obviously we didn't know much about the album. Because you'd done the thing at Coachella with Billie Eilish, of course, where you featured it on stage with her, I thought, well, she's got to be a dead cert for the album. So was that ever a plan or a thing?
I actually went out for lunch with her when I went to LA last time in January. At the end of the lunch, she said, so what are you doing this afternoon? And I kind of sort of sheepishly said, well, I'd quite like to make some music. And then everyone sort of looked away and didn't want to have a look at me. So that didn't work out. No, I mean, she's really wonderful, super talented, and there've been a couple of occasions where we've nearly got it together, you know, to do something. I'd love to, obviously.
Okay, let's play this then. This is Silent Running from Gorillaz from the new album Cracker Island on the Radio X Evening Show. Damon Albarn's on the show tonight. Radio X. It's a former record of the week on Radio X. That was Gorillaz and Silent Running, and we're lucky enough to have Damon Albarn join us in the studio tonight. Are there any more tour dates? Are there any more gigs coming up? Have you got anything lined up for Gorillaz? Any more plans live-wise?
I'm doing Coachella again, which will be a big show.
Can I ask? I know this is a weird question for somebody who performs, but I've only ever been to Coachella once, and it was about 10 years ago. The strangest thing for anyone who's not been there, and we've got great festival culture here, but the strangest thing about Coachella is you can't drink or do really anything within the festival grounds. Because so you have to go into these bars that are off at the side.
Yeah, and of late it's become very weird to me because everything's pre-recorded. I mean, there's very few live bands there. And when I was with Billie, it was like weird because I had to use in-ears for the first time, and there was it's very alien to me.
Is that an American thing right now, or?
I hope it's something that's going to sort of not carry on as a trend for too long because it's killing live music.
Okay.
for us, it's going to be a great opportunity to go and show that new generation what it's like to hear a super tight band.
Yeah.
You know? So I've got to do that, and then obviously I've got Blur for the summer.
Yeah.
Then I go back and play a few large stadiums in America with Gorillaz again, and then that's it for the year.
Can I ask, how did you manage to pull off Paul Weller supporting you at Wembley Stadium?
Well, I mean, God blimey, the amount of kind of to and froing about who's going to support and everything. I mean, to start off with, it was like, you know, when the idea of playing Wembley came up, it was, oh, well, we're going to have a very strong support to announce the gigs. And I was like, no, if it's going to work, we've got to be able to do it just on our own. There's no point in doing this otherwise. So we didn't announce anyone. And we got the first night, which is Slow Tie and Self-Esteem and Jockstrap, which is kind of a much younger. It's good, but it's like the second. It's a Sunday, isn't it? So it's kind of more kind of for the original kind of Blur fans, I suppose.
Sundays are for the original Blur fans. That's when they're coming down.
Sunday, isn't it? You know what I mean? And well, Paul was a huge influence for Graham and I. You know, the Jam was one of the reasons why we started a band in the first place. And sadly, we couldn't ask the Specials because, you know,
Terry passed away.
Dear friend Terry is no longer with us.
Is it easy for you to articulate what Terry meant to you musically, but also personally?
Well, I mean, I was a kid of 14, and I was somehow managed to get to a filming of Top of the Pops, and I found myself standing underneath Terry Hall, watching him and just going, "This is the coolest, greatest human being on earth." Went immediately back to Colchester and got myself a pair of moccasins just like his. Well, not as cool as his ones. But, I think the Specials and the Fun Boy Free were huge for me. And he's a really lovely, beautiful, funny person. And I didn't know he was so ill, so I didn't get a chance to say goodbye.
Yeah.
A regret, obviously, for me.
Well, this is maybe the perfect time to play this. This is the Specials, Too Much Too Young on the Radio X Evening Show. Damon Albarn joins us tonight.
Radio X.
Hello, this is the Radio X Evening Show with me, Dan O'Connell. We are lucky enough to be joined by Mr. Damon Albarn tonight to talk about Cracker Island, the new Gorillaz album, which features the great De La Soul. I just wanted to mention Trugoy.
Another friend who I lost. I mean, it wasn't such a shock, to be honest with you, because Dave wasn't the healthiest of guys towards the end. You know, he had problems, heart problems. Yeah. But yeah, I was with him a few months ago. So, yeah, we're all, I mean, it's just tragic. But I think it's come at a time when there's no such thing as good timing when it comes to somebody passing. But you know, the De La Soul are having a massive resurgence because they're finally their albums are streamable because they've had this big problem, and you know it's time that their place in the pantheon of hip hop is recognised, because someone like me, I mean, the reason why I got into hip hop in the first place was De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest. I mean, you know, amazing. It was like a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And so his contribution is immense.
Kind of fortuitous in that time as well. That I mean, I said it on air when it happened that it's kind of sad that just before he got to see those results.
It's very tragic, and I've spoken to a lot of people close to him, and I've hung out with a few of them. But I suppose when I go back to America soon, I'll kind of feel it. You know, when we do our first gig without him, that's going to be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I had Noel Gallagher on the show. I want to play you something. You can hear this. Okay, I'm going to put the mics down so you can hear this.
Set me up here.
No. It's not a stitch up. Oh. Damon, I wouldn't do that to you. Listen, this is lovely. Oh, this is a beautiful thing. You ready?
Okay. Me and him get on great. I love his band. Yeah, the Gorillaz is a cool thing to be involved with because you get to meet lots of really cool. I mean, met De La Soul at their gigs and, you know, Mos Def, and it's like you don't really... How he puts it all together is quite incredible. I enjoyed writing with him. Yeah, I'm open to stuff like that, you know. I haven't seen him for a while, actually. I've spoken to him for a bit, but yeah, if he needs me, I'd sprinkle a bit of Northern magic on it for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, last time I met Noel was in Porto after the Champions League game, and I was going to get my car, and he was waiting for his car, and he wasn't particularly pleased to see me on that occasion. But I mean, God blimey, how our fortunes have changed in the interim. I mean, I'm sure he'd be delighted to talk to me about football now.
Of course.
And yeah, no, I love Noel. I love him. You know, he's great.
When you've done something like Gorillaz for 25 years and you've done everything else that you've done, you're a man who wears many hats, you know. I guess you're always on the move in something. I mean, I remember just
last... my LA Dodgers hat on at the moment.
He's a fan. I remember last year I hosted a gig for War Child that you did where you were doing a solo show. Yeah. And then you're kind of back into the Gorillaz thing and you've got everything else going on that you've mentioned. Do you ever feel forced in any of those things? Or is there enough time where you get to make your decisions so that all your time's allotted correctly?
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to keep ahead of the game, really, you know, and just not allow yourself to become too precious about things. And it's weird, actually. It's interesting with Blur this time. It's like, I think we've all mature enough to give each other the space that we need. Yeah, it would have made life a lot easier if I had reacted less to Graham's idiosyncrasies and vice versa back in the day. But you know, you're young and you only see life as something in the future, you know, something ahead of you. Whereas when you get to 55, you have quite a lot to look back on as well and reflection.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Cracker Island looks like it's going to be a #1 album tomorrow. And here is Paul Weller, who's supporting Blur this summer at Wembley Stadium. It all comes together nicely. Damon, come back and see us in the summer when you're doing those Blur shows.
Great. Okay.
Damon Albarn, everybody.
Radio X.